Hello, welcome to the Accelerating Digital Adoption podcast. I'm Jay Kerway, managing partner at Value Add Group, leading healthcare innovation. And today I'm very excited and grateful to be joined by Lora. Bo, you recently exited Amazon, where we've done a lot of great work together and even more great work coming. So thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you for the invitation. And I am out of Amazon, obviously ready for a battle.
Ready for battle. Here we go.
Everybody always asks me about the swords.
Before we draw the swords, how about a little dance together?
Okay.
Just to set the mood. You ready?
Yeah.
And feel free to vibe along with it. Here it comes.
Powered by Riverside.
Go. I'm gonna help you come up with your own bumper music.
Well, AI would do that for me.
Yeah.
But what I found, I clicked on this early on when I was playing around with Riverside, and the vibe just met me right where I was.
Awesome.
I'm like, yes, it puts a smile on my face and relaxes my blood pressure, just and flowing.
Yeah,
So, yeah. Hey, I welcome the opportunity. So, tell me about the swords. What's up with that?
I used to travel into Madrid for years. And whenever I had a chance, I'd rent a car and go down to Toledo. And because I love that whole city, and then I just started collecting swords. So so most of these swords are like 20 plus years. We're talking early 90s, late 80s.
Awesome.
I'm really dating myself. Well, some of these swords might be older than you. I don't know.
I'm flattered by that comment. The Toledo's the right place to get started with swords.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I looked for this one right here for years, and you won't believe where I found it. I found it in Dallas at a place called Medieval Times. Like,
no
there's
kidding.
a ton of Medieval Times.
It sounds like one of those restaurants. You ever been to one of those where they do it's basically that's it?
That's what it is. You
okay.
Stick in with your hands.
Yeah.
They're out there just having a good time.
I love it.
But it's a scimitar, and I looked for years for one. None of these are like real swords either. I mean, like, I've tried to wield them and go out there and chop some weeds and stuff, but they're not very practical.
Hey, look, it's all good.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is reminiscent of our time together. It's always fun, always different. I first met you in person anyway at our accelerator in Moab. It's been a few months now.
Yeah.
Yeah. When the idea first came across your desk, hey, Bo, check these guys out, see what they're doing in Moab. You were up to your neck in things and with Amazon, 100 million things going on. What was your first thought?
I thought, hey, this looks good. A chance to get away out in the outdoors. And I watched a YouTube video of Justin talking to people in the outdoors, and I was like, I didn't even think twice. I was like, sign me up.
And did you get out of it what you were hoping?
I got a lot more out of it. Definitely I think a better alignment on the mission that I knew already I wanted. And I think what I got out of it was a more conviction on that mission, enough so to tell AWS, see you later, when they wanted me to do things that were not aligned with healthcare and life sciences. Wow. That was the moment that I decided, well, maybe I'm not in the right team, maybe I'm not in the right company, and here's your golden handcuffs. So it gave me the courage to really have that conviction to be aligned with what I really want to do as I like truly getting to the later phase of my career. I want to end it with something that means something to me, not something that means something to a manager or an owner of another company. So I think that's what I gained from. Now that might not be like the most inviting thing for someone who's like in a company and doesn't envision themselves out of a company. Uh, Most people, when they quit a company, they have somewhere else to land. But what I learned, I credit what I learned in this workshop a lot with the kind of conviction that it took to have that courage to just say, you know what, there's something more important than me, and I'm gonna go for it. So that's where I am.
So that's where you are. Tell me, I think everyone's looking for that kind of confidence and ownership
Mm-hmm.
and self-determination. And the fact that you were able to get that through the experience, I think it's extremely valuable for all of us. Tell
Yeah.
me what you're doing with it now. So we knew each other at Amazon. You were, I mean, at our accelerator, you were our Amazon rep who was just
Mm-hmm.
amazing at every corner, introducing the AI, introducing people to new tech and digital solutions that they just had never even thought of. Obviously, you have a technical prowess that you could easily monetize. What are you doing now as you're looking forward and trying to fulfill that mission you talked about?
Well, as I introduce myself, and Justin always loves to introduce myself this way, introduce me this way. I consider myself a humanist first and technologist second. My title at Amazon was a principal design technologist. Typically within the world of user experience, that means someone who's a prototyper or who kind of brings ideas to life. I think that's pretty much a inbred thing in a lot of different um, roles. Like designers are becoming prototypers. There's tools. There's product managers are becoming prototypers. There's tools like Replit and Figma now. Um, I just found a new one from Google called Stitch dot with google.com. Amazing, amazing tool. So I think now on the outside, I think of myself and where I want to be and where I want to go. And I want to lean into that human. I want to be in team human because, sort of like in line with your book, Human to the Power of AI, I don't think that AI replacing humans is going to be a good thing for our world. So I want to make sure I'm one of those voices that lean into the empowerment of humans with AI, especially in these big companies who are under a lot of pressure. Board of directors, shareholders are asking, what are you going to do with AI? And there's really a lot of people that really don't know. Like you were saying, we were in a room full of people who certainly have heard AI and AI this and AI that, but just basic fundamental AI usage could be a challenge for many
Yeah.
on how to really leverage AI personally, and then more importantly, from a corporate perspective, how to really lean into AI so that humans are augmented rather than replaced.
That's the idea, right?
Yeah.
Hold on a second. The light in my room just got really bad. So, Bo, I want to hear more about you. But before we do, can I just go? What is it that you think at this stage in the AI revolution? What is it that's most at risk from a human perspective? What is it that we're letting go of too easily, too quickly, or putting at putting at the mercy of AI without being thoughtful or disciplined
Great question. If you go back in history and the Google, Google became a verb. We Google things now, and so forth. At the core of that transition in history, we offloaded a lot of our critical thinking, and where to the point now that I'm lucky if I remember two numbers, really. I remember my number, I remember my wife's phone number. Other than that, I don't know any numbers.
And you're already ahead of 90% of the world, I think, knowing
I
your own.
I ask people, "What's your phone number?" And sometimes they have to think,
To look it
like,
up.
because now we just touch our phones
Yeah.
together to transfer phone numbers. So, um, and AI now is taking that, 10xing that. So, whereas I remember a site that was called "Let Me Google That For You." It was the initials
Hmm.
LM whatever, and it was a kind of a joke because people would ask, "Oh, how do you do this?" "Oh, let me Google that for you."
Right.
But now with ChatGPT and all the other chat LMs, that's 10xing that. So like now we really don't know like what to do, because we're offloading part of our brain to AI. So I think that's and then AI itself, when you look at ChatGPT, Claude, DeepSeek, Perplexity, Gemini, all of these are being trained on the same corpora. We used to joke that Wikipedia was a joke, that like, but now actually these models are trained on Wikipedia is considered good data. Let that sink in for a minute. So what's happening is this so-called intelligence is being commoditized and really becoming a general, like, generic body of intelligence. And I think for in all practical purposes, we're driving while looking at the rear view mirror.
Yeah.
And there's a I I'm a I see I'm a little pessimistic about that. That I think there's a wall coming that people are not seeing.
Or at least a turn, and they're going to go right off the road.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this makes me think of when you're Googling, you could at least identify the source of the information and assess, okay, what's the incentive? Where's the money? Follow the money. You can understand why they might say something and be able to judge or assess the validity and match up all the different sources of information to say, okay, here's my truth.
Yeah.
And we learned that over time because we learned, okay, I can't, Google is not the God of all truth.
Right.
And so I've got to really understand its source. With AI and how it brings it all together, that's a black box.
Mm-hmm.
And our ability to discern what is legitimate and reliable versus what is not has to increase and is going to require a whole
Right.
new level of human cognitive capability.
Yeah, I think Perplexity was probably the first tool that actually allowed you to lift the lid on that black box.
Mm-hmm.
And they did a really good job at sourcing, things. So it wasn't just a generative, you know, product that just spit out things that sounded great. It actually gave you sources. So I think there'll be more and more of that. Amazon Quick Suite is a really good example of sourcing their research agent. It's really, really good at telling you what articles it looked at and how it composed a certain paragraph.
Thank you, Bo. I really am excited about where you're going, where you've been, and where you're going. You shared stories with me about your military experience and then how that translated into Amazon and where you're headed. Can you tell me more?
Yeah, my career started in the military. I was working on hardware cryptographic equipment. I actually worked on Colin Powell's secure phones, um, and I worked. I drove. I remember going to NATO bases and Army bases, Air Force bases, working on the cryptographic equipment. And then I went to work in 1989 for a company called Bolt, Beranek and Newman. So if you do any research on the internet, the packet switch network, which is what the internet is, was really invented by the Rand Corporation, but it was Bolt, Beranek and Newman who built the first internet message processor, which was the packet switch nodes. And I went around Europe installing circuits and nodes, like 5 rack suites of equipment for the ARPANET, which was the predecessor to the internet. And I actually worked with people who actually wrote TCP/IP, which is the protocol that manages all these packets of information. And they wrote X25 protocol, which is how email gets sent. So really fascinating time. And then I did sort of a leap of faith. I wanted to go back to the United States. So I landed in San Antonio. Unbeknownst to me in 1992, it was a really bad job market. So I started teaching classes. I started teaching basics like Excel. At the time, Excel was just brand new. Lotus 123, WordPerfect. Started teaching desktop publishing. So a lot of those kinds of, and then I created my own small little ad agency. Took a part in bringing ice hockey to San Antonio, Texas.
That
So I
couldn't have
worked
been
in
easy.
that. And then one night I had a friend who was an enthusiast. He had SunSpark stations in his house. He loved to tinker with Unix, and I was very well versed in Unix and did a lot of green screen programming of apps. And he calls me one night and he said, you need to come over. And I'm like, now? It's 9 o'clock. He goes, yes, I found something that you're not going to believe. And it was Mosaic. So the world opened up to the World Wide Web. And there I was in 1995, early 95, looking at this Mosaic and what was called a website and HTML protocol. And we started coding and created our own website back in the day when there was no Google, nowhere to find your website. You were just screaming in a forest, and there was nothing but, you know, academics on the web. And in 1990, early 96, I became one of Motorola's first webmasters. And that was really launched my career. I became an information architect because I was dealing with the semiconductor division at Motorola had thousands of manuals that embedded electronic engineers needed to access, and they needed to access all the information that was related to these little semiconductor chips. And so I created a tool that became affectionately known in Motorola as the Lora tool, or the BLT. And it was this was the age before databases, and I mean the DBase 3 Plus existed, but associated to the web, I created a whole content management system that managed over 12,000 products at Motorola. And it did so with just flat files and um, a, an order of information where I ordered it with this system. And then they tried to replace it with IBM WebSphere, which was a new technology. And it took, I think the contract was like something ridiculous like $20 million. And the first iteration of it, people revolted because it wasn't even the function, half the functionality of the BLT. And even after I left Motorola, because similar, it's funny, I've had different junctions in my career where I have taken leaps of faith and have left perfectly good jobs because I felt like I needed to stretch myself. So that was one case at Motorola where I was asked to look at how we could publish our site in 7 different languages. So I really looked into globalization. That put me in a whole new world. And then the truth is Motorola really wasn't ready for it, for the task they gave me. So then I went to work for a globalization company out of the Silicon Valley in Sunnyvale and helped them implement their technology at Hewlett Packard, where the Hewlett Packard support site also needed to be like in 7 or 10 different languages. And then, so I learned about workflow technology. But again, it was a technology that was way ahead of its time. That company lost its funding, didn't get their last funding round. So they laid half the people off. And then I went to work for their competitor, which eventually bought Uniscape. And that company's still alive, is SDL International, which is a company out of Ireland. Interestingly enough, a lot of globalization technology came from Ireland, from Dublin. So today, even SDL even works with Amazon to do all their translations and all that stuff. I left that company. Then I landed at USAA, which was another pivotal moment where USAA was a very military, like, the story behind USAA was 22 officers that created an association in 1922 to insure their automobiles. So United States Automobile Association was born in 1922, and they were a very military type organization, very waterfall, project management, very hard to move and steer. And then they brought a guy from GTE. And back in my Motorola days, I was also involved in TQM, which was total quality management, the precursor to Six Sigma, and did a lot of work in TQM. They hired this guy at USAA from GTE who was a process engineer, and his task was to reinvent USAA as a process management company as opposed to a project management company. So we learned about Six Sigma. Everybody got like green belt Six Sigma training, and then infused webmaster or my title at that time was a web producer or web design manager, and learned a lot about Six Sigma and how to infuse product development with Six Sigma. And that has stayed with me for my entire career. I then later on went to work for Bearing Point, which is the offshoot of KPMG, to help AT&T B2B, which ushered the iPhone at that time, 2006, 2007. So worked on that. And then from there, I went to Travelocity, which worked with travel. And then from there, I went to Dell, B2B.
I'm still, I don't mean to fast forward
Yeah.
anything, but like healthcare, tell me, like,
Yeah.
where,
So
how does that intersection come in?
so I've been all over the place.
Yeah.
I've been all over the place. Went to Amazon where I worked B2B, Amazon Business. And then I landed at AWS, and the first project that I was given to work on at AWS was to solve the prior authorization problem with specialty medications. So you see all the commercials where Skyrizi or Keytruda and all those commercials, and these drugs are like thousands of dollars a month. Like Keytruda is like, I mean not Keytruda, but Skyrizi is like something insane, like $23,000 a month. So I was brought into that. I was the first person that had any design UX experience brought into. I was like employee number 3 in that project, which then grew to about 40 people. And early on, I sort of had distilled everything that was at that point, and then led the direction of how this thing would look like or behave with patients and with clinicians. So then I started to interview clinicians, interview patients. And that wasn't my first touch point in healthcare. My first touch point was actually back when I was at USAA. I was married at the time to a drug rep. So I got to know a lot of clinicians, a lot of doctors. This was before the sunshine laws and before this high scrutiny on pharma. Used to have a lot of boondoggles and dinners. So I got to sit with a lot of doctors and hear all their pain points, dealing with, information, drug information, and so forth. I even rode with my wife at the time sometimes. This was, again, the age before a lot of the restrictions.
Yeah.
People would go to jail for some of the things that were done back then. And so that was like my first peek into healthcare. Then I got into 2006. I really, really got into nutritional medicine. I got very interested in nutritional medicine to the point where I quit my USAA job just to go chase after that. And then I got laughed out of a lot of doctors' offices for talking about nutritional medicine and preventive care. And then that's when I went to KPMG or Bearing Point because I had to pay the bills. So fast forward back to AWS, I got involved in this, and then I got assigned to a second project, which was clinical trials, which no one around me knew much about. So I really dug into, and again, that comes back from my Six Sigma days of looking at problems, really digging deep into talking to a lot of people, interviewing a lot of people, asking a lot of people about problems, and understanding the entire scope of the challenges in clinical trials. And that led me to becoming one of the thought leaders within AWS in clinical trials, to the point where I did some joint sessions with like PwC, with some people that were like very entrenched for years and years in clinical research, and then did a workshop with them. And our scope was like helping Eli Lilly with their clinical trials. And to the point where some of the PwC people were like, hey, how long have you been in this? And I'm like, oh, I've been studying this for like 6 months. And they're like, what? And even when I went to Moab, Justin had asked me, how long have you been involved in clinical research? And when I told him, well, less than 4 years, he was like, what? And that's just the nature of who I am. And I ask a lot of questions.
And go deep real fast. And you can do that with your Six Sigma background.
Yeah.
So what I want to do in our last minute together is have you just tell me about what you're trying to do now, where AI, clinical trials, the humanist in you, where that intersection is. What's the magic wand wave that you're trying to create in the healthcare space?
I've researched high and low and talked to so many people, and everywhere I get to the same place, and that is interoperability. It's the data. We're drowning in data, yet we're starving for insights. So if there's one thing I'm going after, it's that. Now, there's a lot of companies that have tried to tackle this, but I don't think they've tackled it from a humanist perspective. So that's where I'm going. And just to give you a little clue, whenever I hear the words data transformation, I actually believe there's puppies in heaven being killed, and a little part of me dies, because that's not the solution. Companies have been trying to do that forever, and many millions and billions have been burned in that. So I have a very unique perspective in this, and I can't wait till I can talk more about it. And
I
the reason
understand.
why I say until I talk more about it is because I feel like I need to still inform myself a little bit more
Sure.
before I share.
I get it. So let's just assume that there's somebody out there who is looking for an answer, has been doing this for their whole career.
Mm-hmm.
Interoperability has been the shiny object they've never been able to seize.
Yeah.
Just, it doesn't have to be a drop the mic moment or any like pearl of wisdom necessarily, but just you're sitting there having a coffee, looking out on the Moab red desert, and you say,
Yeah.
you should really be thinking about ... as you're going after interoperability.
The answer lies in open standards, and it lies in a open standard that can really homogenize everything and be able to, with AI, automatically pivot any data into any standard. So when you look at the spectrum of drug development, you have bioinformatics at the beginning, and the guy that's doing bioinformatics could care less about C-disc. And I know I'm throwing some jargon here, but the whole chain of humans that are involved speak different languages throughout the stream of data. And the data that comes from upstream has to be converted into another standard that a statistician understands. And then when it gets to market access, that has to be then transformed into another data standard. And when you get to claims, like the bioinformatics person should be looking at claims. And these are all different standards, all different languages, if you will. And no one has been able to tap into a common highway, if you will, that can power the information bidirectionally.
Well, if there's one thing I know about you, Lora, is you're going to embody the bit of advice I always leave all of us with, and that is to do one thing that scares you every day.
Yeah, I'm living that.
You are living that, and I'm grateful to be able to learn and observe, and more than that, to partner arm in arm as we move forward to creating a healthier world faster.
And maybe it's a naive, Pollyannish thought that I can personally influence an entire industry that has been entrenched in this quagmire. Um, Maybe I'm being a dreamer, but I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or one of my favorite movies is La La Land.
Yeah.
And there's that scene toward the end where she's singing about her aunt who jumps into the River Seine,
Mm-hmm.
and it's an ode to the dreamers.
Yeah.
We need dreamers. Dreamers are the ones that stretch us and get us to places we can't even imagine are possible. And most of us don't want to go there because it's new
Yeah.
and different and difficult. But once we arrive, we're grateful and we praise and rejoice that there were dreamers that helped us get us to a better place. Keep
Yeah.
dreaming, Lora.
Thanks.
Yeah, buddy. Talk soon.
All right. Appreciate it.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye.